So, if you're anything like me, you're probably a bit of a retro collector, and if you're a lot like me, then you might be a little bit of a retro hoarder. So, if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know I've got a reasonably good retro collection. It's growing all the time. I think I've got over 20 Spectrums now, which is just stupidity, really. But I keep buying broken ones and fixing them up. I just enjoy it. But anyway, yes. I have a lot of stuff that I've collected over the years, and an awful lot of that has ended up in videos that are on my channel. But then I've got an awful lot of stuff that I collect that doesn't end up in videos. And the reason for that is they're just small items. They're relatively insignificant on their own. They don't necessarily translate into what would consider a good or lengthy video, so I haven't put them in. So what I thought I'd do, and I don't know if this is going to make it better or worse, but I'd take all of those items and I'd put a few of them together into one big video. I'll lump them together, and I don't know how many things I'm going to show or how long this video is going to be. I'm just going to kind of wing it, as I do with all my videos, really. But yeah, I thought we'd do that, and I thought I'd just show off some of the smaller items that I've got in my collection, and maybe you can share a few memories with me if there's anything that you had or have or are looking to collect. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But I thought I'd start off with something that's not strictly retro, I suppose. It is, of course, it's a Raspberry Pi. And it's not a new one. I bought this when they first came out. I remember it was a leap year. I remember it was the 29th of February 2012. And I got up at like stupid o'clock in the morning when the website went live to see if I could pre-order one of these. And it took me a long time to get through. But I did eventually. And yeah, a few weeks later this turned up, because there was a bit of a wait for them. But this is when the Raspberry Pi very first came out. It's a very first edition Model B, and I set it up with very basic Linux distribution. I think I used it to send a tweet, and then it's been kind of sitting on a shelf ever since. I've never done a thing with it, but there you go. I even paid a little bit extra and got the official original Raspberry... won't focus, will it? Got the official Raspberry Pi case as well. I think I ordered it from RS Components in the end. Yeah. And I got a whole, like one of their packs that comes with it as well. So it had the power supply and the case and what have you. But yes, it's a very underpowered device compared to what the modern Raspberry Pis will do. There's just no comparison really. But I don't know, maybe it's still good for some projects, I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I'd never really done anything with it. I was kind of underwhelmed when I first got it. I don't know. Did you get one of these when they first came out? And if you did, what did you do with it, and how useful was it to you? I don't know. So I didn't collect them as a kid, but I know a lot of people did quite enjoy the third-party books that were released around all the old micros. So I never had any myself, but I've got a little collection of them now. Not that I've got out and specifically bought them, but they tend to come with systems that I've bought in the past. So you buy a computer, for example, the owner throws in all the old games that they've got as well, and any manuals, and every now and then I've picked up a book as well. So yeah, I've got a few. So I've got the Electron Programmer. Quite a sizable thing. And, apparently it was lifted from Eastwood High School. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, so it was a high school book. Start programming with the Electron. I think these all came from the same source, actually. Starting to disintegrate. It's a shame. Young Person's Guide to BBC Basic. Beginner's Guide to the BBC Micro. All interesting stuff. And Personal Computer News Library, the companion to the BBC Micro. Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, so I think these are, I'm assuming, just introductions to the computer. Oh, the history of the BBC Micro. This might be might be an interesting one to read, actually. I never have. They've just sort of gone inside a cupboard as soon as I bought them. That's quite an interesting one, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so that's like an overview. And this is going to be another beginner's guide. Some basic programs to type in, they're always fun. I don't know what they mean by a young person's guide. Does that imply a slightly older person couldn't do it? Oh, I've got that tape deck. Yeah, it's covering basic programming. And I don't mean basic as in simple. I mean, you know, was it beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code or whatever it is. Yeah, these are much of the same thing. But yeah, don't have any Spectrum ones. They'd probably be of more interest to me, considering that was my childhood system. But yeah, did you have any of these? Did you find them helpful, useful, confusing? And are there any you'd recommend? So, staying on the publication theme, and I picked these up years and years ago, and it was only a couple of quid plus postage for a load of issues of B-Book magazine, which is a publication for the BBC Micro. And it's not your typical gaming magazine. In fact, it's not a gaming magazine at all. It's purely for the hobbyists. But it's quite interesting. Things I like about it are things like the latest news and the latest upgrades and devices that you can add-ons, if you like, for the computer. Latest software to come out. There's a buy and sell section as well, which is quite interesting. Just, you know, it's quite interesting to see some of what is considered, you know, retro equipment when it was brand new, and it was discussed in that context. I mean, there's something. There's a mouse for the BBC Micro, and that was, what does that say? £68.99, and that was back in June 1986. So that was an expensive bit of kit back then. But yeah, I've got several of these, and it's not. Oh yeah, there we are, personal ads. And when I say personal ads, I think it's people selling things. In fact, I might need to blur that out, because what we've actually got there is names, addresses and telephone numbers, so I might just blur that screen. But yeah, so you got your classified ads, potential new releases, which will now be old releases. Oh, there we go. Mirrorsoft software by mail order. It's the adverts that I like the most. It's the adverts for things that, and in a lot of cases, companies that just don't exist anymore. I just find these things interesting. I spend a happy hour just flicking through these. A while ago, I bought a Spectrum with an aftermarket DK-Tronics case, and I did put a video together on that, but it came with a bunch of other stuff as well, and included in it was these. And they've been rewired for the Kempston standard by the previous owner. And presumably he used them as well, because there was a DK-Tronics joystick interface that came with it all as well. But these are obviously not natively Sinclair joysticks. No, they're for the Texas, I think the TI-99, but please feel free to correct me on that one if I'm wrong. I've got to say, they're the worst joysticks I've ever used. I've kind of kept them in a box. I don't use them though, so I don't really know what to do with them. I just sort of inherited them. I would never have bought them anyway, but they look alright. They've got a certain charm, but when you actually go to use them, they feel spongy. The fire buttons feels like you're pressing chewing gum underneath it. They're just not fun to use at all. And yeah, I've got two of them, so they'll probably just go back in the box, I suppose. Or I mean, I'd sell them on, but I just don't think they'd be worth anything really. But I don't know, have you got any experience using them, and do you like them, do you hate them? You tell me. In terms of test equipment, I've got some retro test equipment as well, funnily enough. So this is, it's actually an old battery tester. I don't know what the date of this is. I've sort of kind of guessing, looking at pictures on the internet, that it dates from between the 1930s to the 1950s. But again, if you know better, please tell me. But I bought it because, well, it was cheap, and I really like the look of it. And it's a nice little thing, and it works really well. Cable's getting a bit frayed with age, but I'm getting a bit frayed with age, so I can't really complain there. Just a nice little thing. I don't really use it, but it's just a nice to have, I suppose. My Sinclair DM2, you've probably seen this in numerous videos because I do use this. This really is my daily driver multimeter because it works beautifully. It's incredibly reliable, and the display on it is nice and crisp and clear that you can really easily see it on the camera. So it's a perfect thing to use. And it is a Sinclair product. And yes, it is the same people who brought you the computers, but it's from an earlier company. So it predates Sinclair research. I think this one dates back to about 1974, something like that. Sinclair Radionics, which was Clive's original company. We can see it listed on the back there. Yeah, I've had this a long time. I've probably had it, 2006 I bought this, I think it was, and I paid a tenner for it. And it was described as not working with a loud rattle. And it didn't work because there was no battery in it, and the loud rattle just turned out to be the battery connections rattling around inside it. So I was the only one who bid on it, I think. But they go for a little bit more now. But there you go. Yeah, it's a cracking little device, and I use it on a weekly basis. Even older than the Sinclair, I've got these, and these are they're old voltmeters and ammeters, and I bought these about 3 or 4 years ago now, from a cracking little shop in Manchester, because I used to work in Manchester. I was, in fact, I was almost directly opposite Piccadilly Station, and there's a lovely little bric-a-brac shop, say probably about a 5-minute walk from the station itself, and it sells all these a lot of old LPs and what have you, and every now and then you'll come across a couple of little gems, and I saw these 2 meters and I couldn't leave them there. And the guy said he'd had a few of them in, and people had come in to bought them to upcycle them, and people turn them into lamps, would you believe that? Which just seems like destruction to me, unnecessarily, but they're perfectly functioning meters. I don't use them really, but I might start actually, because they are perfectly good meters, and there's no reason why I can't use them. They're old, so they might need calibrating, but I bought them again because they're just nice things. Yeah, it's there we go. It's got a calibration certificate there for, if that'll focus, January the 31st, 1955. So these are really old. That one's a bit newer. Apparently, it was last calibrated in 1958. So yeah, they might be due a calibration, but they're just nice things. And I think, gutting them, drilling a hole in the top just to put a lamp in there seems, I don't know, I don't like that very much. I'd rather keep them as functioning meters, and they do function. So I don't know, maybe I'll start using them in a few videos, because that'd be a nice, easy thing to see on the camera, wouldn't it, along with the Sinclair. Yeah. So the microdrives, they were never exactly Sinclair's finest hour, were they? From the reports I've had, they were notoriously unreliable, and I can certainly vouch that absolutely every single microdrive that I've used has failed on me. Usually because the tape's jammed in it, and I suspect a large part of that is because the felt padding has fallen off it. I don't know, but I do have a couple of microdrives that came with. I suppose technically it's an issue 2 machine that I bought, although when I opened it up, it's actually an issue 1.5, so it's got the issue 1 ULA in it. This came with it anyway, and in fact, one of them, it's even still got the original plastic protective film on it as well, which I'm dying to peel it off, but I don't know if I ever want to. I feel like I'd need to make an event out of it if I'm going to do that, like actually invite people round and get some drinks and nibbles in. But anyway, yes, I have them. I don't use them because all my microdrives have failed, with the exception of one. And I've got one that will never fail, and it will never fail because I'm never going to open it, because it is a brand new sealed, albeit that the plastic's gone a bit yellow, cartridge. I think at some point the glue's going to fail and this will probably open itself, but for the time being it's still sealed. Original Mega Drive cartridge with the sticker price of £1.99 on it. So I think they were a little bit more expensive than that initially, so this must have been later in its life when they weren't selling so well and they were trying to get sort of the stock. But yeah, it's even got some instructions on the back on how to take care of your Mega Drive, so I'll try and scroll past a bit slow, so if you want to pause and read it you can. But yeah, interesting. I mean, if you don't know what a Mega Drive is, it's what's known as a stringy sloppy. Stringy sloppy? My goodness. Don't know what the hell I was thinking of. Stringy floppy. Sorry about that. Solution. So it's like a mini 8-track in a way that you've got one continuous loop of magnetic tape and it just spins around. And then there's the metallic joiner which fastens the tape and it uses that as the index, I think, so it knows where it is on the tape. Not the only system to use that. I've got a wafer drive as well, does the same thing, although the wafer drive is a lot more reliable. But not as quick. Yeah. So I've never had a good reason to open this up. So it can stay as a sealed brand new cartridge. I mean, what would I do with it if I did open it up? Chances are it would run briefly and then probably jam up like the rest of them, and it's kind of worthless, isn't it? So, but yeah. It's nice to see, I think. Now to something brand new, and it's one of those Everdrive type clones, but this one's actually for the Master System. And it was one of my AliExpress purchases, and I think it came after about a month, so I did have to wait for it a little bit, but yeah, it works really well. If you want, I can do a separate video on this, but effectively it's basically an Everdrive. You plug it in, select a game, and it loads it up for you, and it comes with an SD card slot. In fact, this one came with an SD card as well, and it's got literally hundreds, if not thousands of games on it. I mean, probably not thousands, but literally hundreds of games on it as well. Every time I've found a Master System game that I wanted to play, it's on that card, and this came with it. You can get them in different colours, I think, where effectively you're getting the same thing. I think I got the clear case because it was the cheapest. I think if you get the solid colours, they're a little bit more expensive. I don't know why that would be. But yeah, there are sellers on eBay that are selling these, but I would recommend you don't buy it on eBay, because what they do is they import them and then they add their own markup on them as well. You might get it quicker, that's the only thing, but I bought this from AliExpress. I waited for it to come from China, and including postage, so to my door, it cost me £27. So yeah, if you're thinking about getting one of these, I can confirm they do work. They work extremely well. I don't know what the legality is about all the games that it comes packaged with, but yeah, I mean, you know, you can make your own ethical judgment on that, I suppose. So about a decade ago, I bought me BBC Micro, and this is before retro prices went stupidly through the roof, and you could get systems reasonably cheaply. And I think I paid about 35 quid for it, and then I think there was another £10 postage on top of that, which I didn't mind, because I also got a boatload of other stuff with it. So I got a massive amount of cassette software. I got a cassette player. I got 2 disc drives. I got, funnily enough, a pile of discs with his kids' diaries on from the 1980s, which I probably won't show because I think that's completely inappropriate, but they're there. Yeah, but the guy, his kids used it for gaming, so I had a load of games. He used it for running his business, so I had all his, in fact, it's still got all his financial stuff on the discs as well. And it comes with just some weird software, so I got this. So, Abacus Business Systems non-VAT accounts, and he paid 95p for it. I think he was ripped off. Because they look enthralled, don't they? Yeah. It is, of course, the cassette version to make it even more boring. So, yeah. I got that. And the Bebug Soft Dump Master, so I can take my computer for a masterful dump now, apparently. Yeah. Question is, I mean, I would never have gone out and bought this stuff anyway, and I can't imagine there's a great market for it. So does that make it rare? I can't imagine even if it is rare, it's particularly collectible. But does anybody else have any of this garbage lying around? I don't really want to throw it away, but then I can't imagine what I'd ever do with it either. It's time we talk modems, and I can't remember if I've done a video on this already or not. I don't think I have, but if I have, I apologise. But yes, it is in fact the most spectacular add-on under the spectrum, and it is the VTX 5000 Prison modem. And it is it's a modem for the Sinclair Spectrum that allowed you to connect to the Micronet network, which is part of the Prestel service, I believe, back in the day. And it's complete and boxed. I bought this many years ago, brand new old stock, because the guy who was selling it, he had a pallet of them, and he was flogging them off for like $5 each plus postage. So I bought one. I thought it might be interesting. I don't think there's anything you can actually do with it. Obviously the Prestel network's long gone, so I'm not going to be dialing into any bulletin boards in it. But I'm sure back in the day it was really good. So the idea is you would plug your Spectrum into the phone line, and you'd be able to dial into Micronet, and you'd be able to chat on message boards, send electronic emails, but it was called electronic mail presumably back then. Download software even, I think. Yeah, so it's quite an interesting thing. It's still got its polys. Let me just see if I can get it out the box. And I've no doubt taking that out the wrong... Yep, that's upside down. Of course it is. Really nice condition. Because it is effectively brand new. So you've got your line switch for on. You've got a Micronet. And you've got a switch for transmit and receive, I think. Got your phone jack at the back, and then you've got the expansion where you would connect it to the Spectrum. And that would be the connector. And then you've got this thing, which is just like an expansion, which is not something you want hanging out the back of your computer, all that exposed metal, but there it is. And telephone cable. And the manual. It does work in that it powers up and it does show a screen when it's working. But that's as far as I can get with it, because there is no service I can sign into unless you know of any hobbyists that have set one up, in which case I can dial in. But I don't think so. I'll tell you what, let me get set up and I'll just show you this actually functioning. So you can see there, it just sits right underneath the computer, so it's a nice neat little package. Plugs in around the back, and then you still have this connector here, which you can use in conjunction with this if you still want to plug in your printer or your joystick or whatever, so you've still got access to all of that as well. So yeah, let's plug it in. So immediately on power up, we get this little splash screen. So Micronet 800 version 3.1, and apparently it's the 10th of August 1983. I can't imagine there's any sort of system clock in it, so that must be what it defaults to. I don't know. So press any key, and what do we get? So this is where we would usually sign into the Prestel service, but obviously we can't do that. So 0 to log on and off. Well, it's not going to let me do that, is it? Nope. So Micronet terminal, for some reason, just takes me back to that. Save frame, view frame, print frame. That literally takes a screenshot of whatever's on, I think, on the screen, I think. Yeah, so that's all that's doing. And now I've got to wait for that to finish. Bear with me. I will edit this out the video. Oh, that was quick. Okay, never mind. Downloader, I've no idea. Presumably that is for exchanging software. Mailbox message, now that would have been a really, really cool thing back in the day. Can you imagine 1983 or whenever it was this came out, and you're able to view electronic mail. So you can send a message, prepare a message, save a message, fetch a message, display a message. Can I display one? Is there any? There are no messages. Well, there wouldn't be, would there? I thought it might have had maybe an example, but it doesn't. Okay. So there it is. There's very little I can show you with it, really, because I can't log into any online services with it. But yeah, it was a thing back in the day. Another Sinclair Radionics product, and yeah, it's an old calculator from the mid-70s, I would say. So this was a cheapy eBay purchase from, I'm gonna say, about 2008. Probably when I really started getting back into retro, I think. And it's, yeah, it's a nice little scientific calculator. It does work. So it lights up with a very pleasing LED display. And you'll notice, or you may notice, there is no equals button on this calculator. So you've got to use it a little bit differently. It uses what's known as the reverse Polish method for entering. So if I wanted to do 1 plus 2, for example, I would enter 1, then I would add the plus sign, and then I would add 2, and then I would press the button for whatever mathematical operator I wanted to do. So in this case, plus, and it will give me 3 if that's coming up on there. So it'd be the same if I was 2 minus 1, for example. So I could say 2 plus 1, and then minus, it gives me 1. So it's just a bit of a different way of doing things. I don't completely understand how to use this, if I'm completely honest. I never got a manual for it. But anyway, yeah, it's a nice little thing, and I do like to just power it up and tap about on it. Sometimes it's just a very nice, pleasant thing with a really lovely, pleasant display on it. It's just a nice old thing. Got another old calculator here. It's an old 1970s Rockwell, and again, it's another LED display one. This one is in daily use. I use this a lot. I use it in my daily work as well. So for a lot of my work, I actually still work from home. And yeah, this calculator is used daily. This bit of BT branded kit, it's an old Scion computer from the 1980s. And these things were used by various companies. This particular one, branded British Telecom, was used for logging in and out of jobs that were to be done in the field. So it was used by the engineers and the jointers that actually went out in the field, and they would receive their jobs and information via one of these. I know that because this was given to me by a former BT employee who shall remain nameless. I don't know if it was supposed to be donated or not. I think the story I got is the company just never asked for it back when it became obsolete, and it just sat in a drawer for a long time, and then it was passed on to me. But yeah, it's got a full alphabet keyboard. Really annoyingly, it's the keys are actually arranged alphabetically, so it takes forever to type on it. Yeah. And plus this has also got the BT software in it as well. So normally these would be like a personal organiser. So you'd have an address book. I think they had an alarm function on it and things like that. This one has custom software on it specific to BT, which makes it kind of useless. I think there is a way of reflashing the memory on it, but I've never actually done it. But it does work, albeit it doesn't show a lot on the screen other than ask for like a job number or something. It's got its 128k data pack, which I think is what was used to upload and download the information for the work schedules of the jobs that you were doing. Yeah. Never found a use for it yet, but I don't know, maybe it's one of those things that's deserving of a more in-depth video one day. But if you want to see that, let me know, and I'll quite happily research it, because I have got another one of these that's got the original software on it somewhere. I just can't find it at the moment. But yeah, if you want to see an independent separate video on these, let me know. So with nostalgia being such a great big thing, there's a lot of companies at the moment that are bringing out a lot of recreations, shall we say, and I've got a couple here. It's the Game & Watch series, which I'm sure we all remember from our childhoods, and these things are absolutely superb. They really are. So the if I can get the package open, I'll show you them. So we've got a USB and some instructions, and should be a unit in there somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Right. They've tried to be as faithful as possible to the original Game & Watch, but it's got modern guts in it. So just to compare it to an original, I've got, oh, it's upside down, I've got Mario's Cement Factory. Yeah, it's absolutely the same size, button placement's all the same, but whereas this is just an LCD game, this, and I don't know if there's any charge in the battery actually, but we'll find out. I would say that's dead. Let me just plug that in. Alright, there we go. Yeah, you'll just have to excuse the cable for the time being. The battery's gone dead on this, but yeah, it's Super Mario Brothers. In fact, I've got Super Mario Brothers 1 and 2, and I've got the LCD ball game as well. Cracking bit of kit. So retro looks with modern guts and plays retro NES games. Faithfully plays them as well. It's really good. The screens are really lovely and clear on these, which may or may not come up very well on the screen. Yep, I've got another one. So I've got Legend of Zelda on this one as well. You get the idea. I won't unbox this one, but it's the same. It's very much the same thing. Again, if you want to see a more detailed video, just let me know. I'm just not sure how much interest there'd be in it. This is a Rotronics wafer drive, and my very first ever YouTube video was on one of these. Not this one, because this is one I bought a few weeks ago. Simply because I saw it for sale and it was buy it now price of 15 quid, and I thought, oh well, I'll have it for that, without really thinking it through, because I don't quite know what I'm going to use it for. I barely use the other one. It's fun to spool up every now and then and just have a play with, but it's not really a practical storage method for 21st century. It's very similar to the micro drive in that it uses the stringy floppies, so it's a continuous loop of magnetic tape. Although they do seem to be, in my experience, a little bit more reliable than the micro drives, if not as quick. Cartridges are quite a bit bigger. Anyway, I thought, I'll get this since it's cheap. Maybe stupidly, maybe it's just a waste of money, I don't know, but I did. I thought I'll give it a test, and I'll throw a known good cartridge into it, and we'll see how it runs. And yeah, that happened. So it ate a cartridge. I then sort of stupidly tried it with another one, and it seemed fine. So it does work. It probably do with the heads cleaning, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, these things are getting fragile with age. They really are. But yeah, do you do that, or is it just me? Maybe I've got more money than sense. I don't know. If you've already got something retro, but you see another one that looks like a bargain, do you go and buy it, or do you think, no, I've already got one, I don't need another one? Please tell me I'm not the only one who does this. I'm just wasting money. I don't know. Behold, a Commodore VIC-20 parts board that I bought a few years ago now. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, thinking about it. And I bought it because literally I wanted it for parts. It was going incredibly cheaply. The guy said it didn't work. He was just getting a black screen. So I bought it. And lo and behold, when I plugged it in, no, of course it doesn't work. It did have a black screen. But then a couple of years later, I came across a VIC chip. Again, it was going cheap. I think it was sold as untested. It was only a few quid. Of course, only a few quid if it didn't work would be a complete waste of money, but I took a gamble. I think it was less than a fiver. And it turned up, and I plugged it in, and now suddenly this board works. It's a fully functioning board. So I don't have a case for it, so I'm a little undecided as to what to do with it. But I don't know, I suppose I'm kind of looking for suggestions, really. It's a fully functioning VIC-20 now. I don't have a case for it, I don't have a keyboard for it. But that wouldn't be the most difficult thing in the world to pick up, so I could do that and actually build another VIC-20, but then I've already got one. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I should build something a bit more custom when it comes to case. I could maybe hand build something out of acrylic or wood even, I don't know. It's just a thought. Maybe, you know, create something a little bit unique. Or would that upset the purists, do you think? I mean, I don't know. Or should it be a parts board? Even though it does work, because it's not a complete computer, should I use it for parts? I'd rather not do that. I probably won't do that, but I'd be interested to hear what the community thinks. And if you've got any suggestions. Now, if I'd filmed this 6 months ago, I'd have been able to show you this working, but since then and now, the battery's gone flat. But never mind. It is a Sinclair TV, and I bought it many years ago for not a lot of money, and it does work, apart from having a flat battery. Although when it does work, of course, it's looking for an analog signal, which is no longer broadcast in the UK, so it's kind of useless. Although I did once manage to tune a Spectrum into it, so there you go. It is a black and white TV, portable TV from the 1980s, and no, it's not LCD, it is a CRT, cathode ray tube television. And if you're wondering how they've managed it, considering it's so flat, well, the cathode ray tube runs this way, and then through a series of mirrors and prisms, the image is reflected back up and then stretched back onto the screen at the front. But yeah, it's kind of a neat little device. I think they were probably quite expensive during the day, and I don't think they sold particularly well either. I don't really think there was a market for it, and by the time there was a market for it, the Japanese were pumping them out for probably twice the quality, half the price. I don't know, but yeah, I remember having a Japanese one in the 90s, and that was in colour. It's a very simple thing. It runs on the Polaroid camera film batteries, which I don't think you can even buy anymore, and I don't have a power supply that's suitable for it at the moment. But yeah, they're the batteries. It's a very simple little thing that would just slot in the side. Like I said, this battery lasted for years and years. The minute I come to film it, yeah, it's died. Although I'd only be showing you static anyway, I think. There's nothing much more to it, really. There's an earphone jack, volume and tuner, and an aerial. Very simple thing. Quite the novelty. I imagine a lot of us remember these coming out back in the day. I'll have to be a little bit careful what I say about this. This was a very, very generous gift from someone, from a family member. It is, of course, the recreated Sinclair Spectrum, and apparently it's the only authorised full-size recreation of the 1980s personal computer. Well, presumably the Spectrum computer. Yeah, effectively what it is it's a Bluetooth keyboard. And this is, I mean, I would say this is basically brand new in box, because I got it one year, it was a gift, as I say. I spent a frustrating hour with it, trying to get it to work properly, which it never did. It went back in the box, and it's literally not been out the box since. But which is a shame, really, because it's quite a nice looking bit of kit. I mean, if you look at the box for a kickoff, it's it really does look very smart. They've done the best to recreate the feel of the original box. So even though if you look on the back, I don't know if you've ever seen the back of the original box, but it has all the setup instructions. Well, this is the same as well. So they've tried to recreate that, and I think they've made a really nice job of the box. We open it up, and this hasn't been opened for a long time, but there it is. And it's a smart looking device. The keys are a little bit darker, I would say, than the original Spectrum. And somehow they feel even cheaper. On the back, we've just got the power socket, and then we've got a layer switch for A and B, which I never quite figured out. The pair button, and then the on-off switch. And then, yeah, it does take batteries. What I do like about it, though, is the attention to detail. So they've gone to the trouble of recreating the keys and all the ledgers. That's all correct. If we look on the back, it's even got the vent holes and the little hole. Is that coming up on the camera? Yeah, the little hole for the speaker, where that would have been. And it even says, I don't know if that's going to be legible, but inspired by the Sinclair ZX Spectrum personal computer, redesigned in the UK for Elite, manufactured in China. Right. Oh, and it's a QC pass as well, so you know it's good. Yeah. So there it is. Let's just see how it compares to a real Spectrum, if I can just grab one. So obviously it's a lot lighter, but size-wise, I mean, the width is identical. The height, there's probably a millimetre in it, to be honest. And the length, let's have a look, is identical. Inside the box, there's a USB charger, which I've never actually used. I think I just ran it off batteries the first time I used it, which I have taken out again. There's a iHeart Retro Gaming. I thought it was a sticker at first, but I think it's supposed to be a coaster, but it's the cheapest, nastiest bit of, yeah. That's the bag it came in. And then it's come with a mouse mat as well, which again is really cheap and nasty. And it feels like it's already starting to decompose a little bit. In fact, you can see there where the USB cable's been leaning against it. It's already marked it. And that's just through being in the box. That's got a really cheap feel to it. And then we've got I wouldn't exactly call it an instruction manual. It's just like a quick start thing. Yeah, the warning notice. Caution, risk of explosion. Oh, bloody hell. Risk of explosion if battery is replaced by an incorrect type. Oh, bloody hell. Okay. Fine. I'll not do that then. And then I've got it's a sticker, actually, with keyboard shortcuts. I don't know what I'd stick that to, but it's in there. Yeah. I remember getting this out of the box, being really excited and looking forward to it, and then spending a very, very frustrating hour trying to get it to do something. I installed the app on the phone, and then I had murder trying to get the thing to pair with the phone. And when I finally did, the keyboard wouldn't work properly, and then when I finally solved that problem, I got halfway through a game and then it just kept disconnecting, and then it'd reconnect and disconnect, and it was a bad experience. It just feels, and this is what annoys me, to be honest, about some of these companies that are producing retro stuff. It feels like it was made as a quick cash grab to bilk some money out of the retro community. That's my opinion of it. Your opinion may differ, I don't know, but I remember being very unimpressed with it. And things like that annoy the dick off me, and that's a thing. It really is. So I could effectively say this is basically unused, because it's literally had an hour of me swearing at it, and then it went straight back in the box, and it's been there ever since. And this is the first time for a few years that it's even been out the box. So yeah. If you want me to go into more detail on it, and you want me to put a specific video in where I can try and reinstall the app and try and get it powered up, and we can have a proper play with it, I'm happy to do that. The only reason I'm not doing it now is I really don't know if the interest would be there for the video, and I don't want to bore you lot and frustrate myself. But if somebody wants to see it, I'm happy to do it. But that's kind of why it stayed in the box, and I've not put a video together, because I really, yeah, I don't think there'd be the interest in it. But If I'm wrong, I'll happily put one together. But for now, yeah, it can just go back in the box, I think, and I'm not going to worry about it. And this is the last thing I'm going to be looking at. So again, it's one of those things that I don't think there's a video in it on its own, but if you want to see one, I'll happily go into more detail and put one together. But the reason I've not done it is because it's technically not a computer. It is just a word processor, and it's the Tandy WP2. It doesn't play games. You can't program BASIC. It is literally a word processor, and that's all it does. It does work, but then I bought it 3 or 4 years ago. I've never done anything with it. I put batteries in it just now, and it seems to fire up okay. I don't know if that's going to come up on the screen or not, but that is all it does. You get a flashing cursor, and then you can type. You can save the file, and then there's you can either print it or there's an RS-232. There's even a cassette port if you wanted to save your documents to cassette, which is kind of unusual. But basically, all you would do, it's a mobile word processor. You type in documents, you save documents, you export them to a PC, and there's really nothing more to it than that. It's not a computer. I don't think it has a particularly interesting history, which is why I've never done a video on it. But again, if you want to see more on it, just ask and I'll happily do it. But to me, it's not the most interesting of devices. I bought it because it was cheap, and then I've never really done anything with it. But there it is. It exists. I liked it because it reminded me a little bit of the Z88 or the Amstrad one. I've got one. I can't think of the model number of it, but the Amstrad Portable. Both of those are far superior units to this because they are full computers. They can do so many things with it. This, it's just a word processor. So that's why I've not done a video on it, but it probably fits quite nicely into this video. So there you go. Anyway, I think that's all I've got to show you, really. So, oh, it's bleeping at me. What have I done? It didn't want to go back in the bag, apparently. Low backup. Oh God, well that is terrible. I know a good solution for that, actually. It's called pull the batteries out. Okay, I'll do that actually before I put it away. But anyway, yeah, I think that's all I've got to show you. So I will say thank you for watching as always. I'll reiterate the point that if there is anything you want to see in more detail, please ask. I'll be happy to do it. And hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Oh, and have a good Christmas if I don't see you before.